Okay, the recording starts, and I will now share my screen. For a while. Okay. And wait. Okay, so we are done discussing the two main types of or ways on how to um, interpret or transform your data into graphical representation. So that is by the use of the frequency polygon, and of course, the other one is what we call the histogram. Okay, so we're done discussing that, and right after that, we discuss about about the how to describe a group performance. So I did mention about the measures of central tendency and measures of variability. Okay. Can you now see my screen? Is that visible?
Opo, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, let's try to recap. No, of course, remember that we have these are two major concepts in describing the assessed performance of the group. No, for describing group performance, we have measures of central tendency and measures of variability. Please tell me if the screen is not visible or hindi tama yung na screen share ko. And when we say measures of central tendency, everyone, these are used to determine the average score of a group of scores. So again, I did mention that all we have to do is to identify the middle score, as we say, and then measures of variability indicate the spread of the scores in the group. Okay, so ang binahanap natin for measures of variability is how spread is your score. No, if Like for example, how can we interpret scores na merong 1, and then merong 11, merong 99, merong 89, somewhat like that, no? And then if we're going to look at the numbers are actually spread. So perhaps we can say that the scores are well spread, for example. Okay. So and then after that, we focused your attention on the measure of central tendency. And then I did mention that for this, we will be using the term mean, median, and mode. We'll be focusing here the measures of central tendency. And then right after that, we discussed what is mean, no? Okay? Na-discuss natin to. Sorry. Okay? So I did give you the formula, the computation of population mean, and then the computation of your sample mean. You just have to take note um, the formula because it signifies there that we have our specific formula for population and of course for sample. Okay, and then right after that, okay, sorry. Right after that, we focused on the computation of the mean for ungrouped data. I believe I did give you an instruction that right after we discuss computation of the mean for ungrouped data, I will be providing you the activity sheet, no? But then again, hindi ko siya nabigay kasi nga I realized that when I constructed the activity, partner pala siya. So you will be computing for ungrouped. At the same time, you will be computing for group data. Okay, and then for this discussion, you will know um, kung ano yung kaibahan ng tinatawag nating ungrouped at saka group because later on you will be encountering those terms, no, the ungrouped and then the grouped data. At ano yung pinagkaiba ng dalawa. Okay? So again, for the ungrouped data, ito yung formula or equations na ginamit natin. Okay? And then I did give you example for that. We have scores of 15 students. In Mathematics 1 quiz consists of 25 items. Please do not confuse yourself to 15 students and 25 items. Okay? Baka yung 25 yung malagay ninyo as the population or the sample. Okay? So please take note of that. Please what you call this focus and then concentrate, no? And then of course I did give you an advice that you have to arrange the scores or your data perhaps from ascending or perhaps descending or ascending order, nakadepende yan sa inyo. The purpose of arranging your scores is to give us um, a clear view of your data. No? Malalaman natin kung ano yung pinakamalaking score at saka pinakamababang score because later on we will be using the highest score and then the lowest score. Okay, so please make sure that if you have your data, try to check the data if the data is already arranged. No, if that is already arranged in a particular manner, you can now start finding the value of whatever it is. Okay, and then of course, nandito yung scores natin. And then ginawa natin, that is summation of x, meaning to say, gi-add up lang natin yung lahat ng scores natin. And then our small letter n, therefore this is a sample, not a population, because n there is in a small letter. Okay, so we have here 15. All you have to do is use the formula, plug in. You have here 228 divided by 15 is equal to 15.2. Okay. Sir, bakit po kailangan natin ng 15.2? Can we write 15? I would suggest that you really have to write kung naka-decimal places man siya children, you really have to write the decimal place, no, or yung value. Sorry kung nagka-cut ako, no, because I'm actually having my cough now. Okay, so at the same time, sir, bakit po napaka-importante isulat mo talaga yung value after the decimal point? It is because that could tell us that really that is hindi naman siya makapagsabi talaga na that is the average. But then again, that is the value of the computation. Okay, as much as possible, we have to copy that. Sir, how about po, sir, right after the computation, whole number po yung nakuha namin. Okay, that's it. Okay? Klaro ba, children?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Apo.
Okay, sige. And then, of course, I did give you an example how to interpret the result because here, children, pag bibigyan ko kayo ng activity sheet, you really have to interpret it. Okay? So, yung interpretation lang natin, if we are to look at the term mean, ang ibig sabihin lang nito that if you have ay back, akala ko mag-cancel na ng klase kasi mag-Miss Universe. Okay, so let's continue everyone. Okay, so again, the interpretation, please try to look at and of course, understand perhaps the template, no? Probably you can use that as your template in what you call this, in analyzing your data or your result. So if we're going to look at the average performance of 15 students who participated in mathematics quiz consisting of 25 items is 15.2. And then according to this implication, so ang sinabi dyan, the implication of this is that yung mga estudyante na nakakuha ng scores below 15.2, they did not perform well, no, sa exam or sa quiz. And then for those students na yung scores above 15.2, they are the students who perform well during the quiz in Mathematics 1. Okay, so I hope you get the pattern of the interpretation. Please do so. And then of course, I had here another example, no? Binigay ko ito na example for us to use the second formula, no? doon sa ungrouped data. Okay. And then please try to observe because later on we will be comparing the data kung paano siya gi-present, no? Because dito natin malalaman if the data is grouped or ungrouped. Okay. Try to look at the example number 2. It is in tabular form and then it is arranged, no, by subjects, grade, units, blah blah blah, no? If you're going to look at naka-arrange po yan, and then pagkatapos niyan ginamit natin yung formula. Okay? This is how you compute your GPA, by the way, for a particular semester. Okay? So ang ginawa dito, meron tayong grade, and then multiply yung grade sa unit, and then right after that, kinuha yung summation, and then divided by the units. Okay? So 32 daw yung summation, and then yung total units niya for that semester is 26, and then yung grado niya for that semester would be 1.23. Okay, that's how you compute your GPA, children. Okay, and then next, okay. Okay. Next would be grouped data, no? Because ito yung titingnan natin, the other one, the one that we discussed is actually ungrouped data, and then for now would be grouped. Sir, kailan natin masasabi that the data is grouped or ungrouped? Okay, ito lang yung pagkatandaan natin, children. When we say group data, data are or scores that are arranged in a frequency distribution. So again, children, di ba nakita natin kanina sa example na ito? Okay? This example number 2 is that as, can you consider that as group or ungrouped data?
Ungroup, sir.
Group, sir.
No, ungrouped, no. Aside from na belong talaga yan sa example na ungrouped, what is the reason why this particular example is considered to be ungrouped data? Bakit kaya nasabi ito na ungrouped data ang example na ito? Any hand, everyone?
In tabular form po siya or
Hindi po
Bakit
naka-arrange,
nasabing
sir.
Amira?
Hindi po as in, sir, naka-arrange. Yung sa
Hindi
grades.
po, hindi siya as in naka-arrange. Okay? Perhaps pwede. Another reason, bakit kaya example number 2 is considered to be ungrouped data at saka hindi group data? Again, pag sinabi natin group data, children, according to definition, pag sinabing group data, the data or scores are arranged in a frequency distribution. Kung titingnan natin yung example number 2, naka-arrange ba ito using frequency distribution?
Sir, kasi po hindi siya
No,
naka-FDT,
sir.
sir.
Yes. No? The answer there, according to Aslima, is hindi siya naka-FDT. That is correct. If we're going to look at our example number 2, children, hindi siya naka-arrange using our FDT. No? Because please take note, our definition of group data are the data or scores that are arranged in a frequency distribution. So kahit itong example natin, children, kahit naka-arrange yan in a tabular form, but the tabular form is not in frequency distribution table, therefore this example is considered to be ungrouped data. Nakuha?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So meaning yan yung titingnan natin kung naka-arrange siya sa FDT group data. Pag wala, that is ungrouped data. Please take note of that. So for group data, when we say again frequency distribution, the arrangement of scores according to category of classes, including the frequency. Degree of classes, yung natin na range, no? Yung 1 to 10, 11 to 15, something like that. Okay. And then when we say frequency, the number of observations falling in a category. Ilan yung nakakuha ng scores na nasa loob ng 1 to 10? Ilan yung nakakuha ng scores na 11 to 15? Okay, that is what we call frequency. And then mean for group data is also called midpoint method. And please take note that when we say mean for group data is also called midpoint method. Bakit tinawag siyang midpoint method? Because for this particular formula, we will be using the midpoint of the data. Diba? Remember the term midpoint? Midpoint is also known. Ano nga yung midpoint? Midpoint is also known as
Median.
Median.
According to Joanna, median daw. Any other answer?
Class mark, sir.
Class mark,
Yes.
sir. Class.
No, but it's class mark. Okay. The other name for mark. Because again, ang gagamitin nating value dito, children, kukunin natin yung class mark ng we have to find the class mark or class mark value for this particular formula. Okay, let's continue. So we will be using the formula x bar is equal to summation of f xm. Okay, the f there is frequency. Okay, frequency in each class or category. Your xm is actually the midpoint of each class or category. Okay, yung midpoint natin na formula, gagamitin natin yun. And then of course, the summation of x sub fx sub m is the summation of the product of frequency and then your midpoint. Because ang gagawin natin dito, i-multiply natin yung frequency and then the midpoint value. Okay, so here are the steps in solving your mean for group data. Find the midpoint or class mark. How to find the class mark, everyone? You have to use the formula, no? Ang gagawin lang natin, we have to look for the LL or the lower limit value. And then right after that is the upper limit value. Okay? And then divided by 2. That is your class mark. Okay. And then right after that, you have to multiply the frequency and then corresponding class mark. And then find the sum of the results in step 2. And then you have to solve the diode using the formula. Okay. Now let's try to look at the example para mas maintindihan. Scores of 40 students in a science class consist of 60 items, and they are if you're going to look at our table, children, the table is in frequency distribution table. No? Naka-FDT na siya. Therefore, this example is considered to be a grouped data. This example is considered to be grouped data. Nakuha?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we have here our first column. Meron tayong X dyan. Yung X natin, yan yung category na tinatawag natin. No? And then we have letter F. The second column is F. That is the frequency of that particular class or category. And then the X sub M, our X sub M, children, is what we call the midpoint or the class mark. And then of course our the product of Fx sub M, the fourth column. Okay. Again, we have here 40 students. Okay. And then meron tayong value na 12. No? Tingnan natin yung value ng X sub M. Alam naman natin no, kung paano kunin yung X sub M? Alam na ba natin?
Opo, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, to review lang, our X sub M is 10 plus 14 divided by 2, that is our 12. 15 plus 19 divided by 2, we have 17, and so on. So that is our midpoint or our class mark. Okay. Right after that, children, multiply na to ang F, ang value sa imong frequency, and then sa imong X sub M. Therefore, we have 5 times 12, that is 60. We have 2 times 17, that is 34. 3 times 22, you have 66. 5 times 27, that is 135. 2 times 32, that is 64. Kindly check kung tama yung value. 9 times 37, that is 333, and so on. And then right after that, all you have to do is to add up the fourth column. And then according to the fourth column, ang value niya is 1,345. Okay? So nakuha na natin yung value ng product or summation of fx sub m. Therefore, we are now ready to use the formula. So plug in lang natin. And then you have now the value 33.63. Okay. So sir, how to analyze, sir? The same analysis pa rin sa kanina, no? The interpretation is lahat ng mga estudyante na nakakuha ng score below 33.63, these are the students who did not perform well during for the science class. Yung mga estudyante na nakuha ng above 33.63, those are the students who perform well in the class. Okay, the same interpretation. Okay, question so far?
None so far po.
Question so far?
None so
Okay.
far, sir.
Okay, so let's try to look at now the properties of the mean, no? Kung saan lang natin pwedeng gamitin yung tinatawag nating mean. I think I did mention this during our first discussion on describing group performance na dapat alam natin. And then of course, remember yung tinatawag nating levels of measurement. Kung gaano ito ka-importante para malaman natin kung ano yung dapat nating gamiting statistical tool, no? Kasi nga, ang sabi ko nga sa inyo that the statistics actually is, I considered statistics as an easy subject for me, no? Compared to other mathematics, like for example, algebra, trigonometry, calculus, no? Mas okay sa akin yung statistics. The problem here is napakataas ng formula. Ang daming formula. I think that's the nature of mathematics naman. And then, the other one is you really have to consider the data. No, kung ibig sabihin, kailangan natin i-consider yung nature ng data para alam natin kung ano yung gagamitin nating tool. No? So for this, according to the properties of the mean, it measures stability daw. Okay? Mean is when we say stability, children, mean is the most stable among other measures of central tendency because every score contributes to the value of the mean. Ibig sabihin, lahat ng scores ninyo, pag sinasabing average kasi or mean, lahat ng scores na nailista, each of the score could affect the value of the mean. No? Ibig sabihin, children, kung naalay magbago, kung babaguhin mo yung isang value, no? For example, you have 10 scores there, babaguhin mo yung isa, mababago yung value ng mean. Ibig sabihin. Because each of the scores, no, each of the score of your mean actually affects the value of your mean. Yan yung ibig sabihin ng stability. Number 2 naman, you will understand more number 2 when we proceed to divisions. But according to here, the sum of each score's distance from the mean is 0. Ang ibig sabihin, children, the sum of the divisions, no, the term division, you will appreciate it more by the time, again, we will discuss division. Ang ibig daw sabihin, if you are going to add up the divisions above the score, above the mean value, 0 ang equivalent na niya. And then if you sum up the value below the mean, that is 0 gyapon. The sum of the deviations below the mean will always equal the sum of the deviations above the mean. So kung ano yung value ng deviation above the mean, the same siya ng value sa below the mean. Okay. Again, you will appreciate more the term deviation when we proceed to measures of variability. Okay. And then the third one, it is easily affected by the extreme scores. In statistics, we call it outliers. No? Pag sinasabing extreme scores, ibig sabihin outlier. Sorry po ibig sabihin, layo kayang score. Like for example, ang perfect score kay 100, 1 to 100. Ang score kay na ay 99, napoy score nga 2, na score nga 100, napoy score nga 1. If you're going to look at, layo kayo ang scores, no? Layo kayo siya. And that is considered to be outliers. No? Very far ang distribution sa ilang scores. And because of that, maapektuhan gid ang imuhang mean. Remember that ang number one nato diri nga property niya na siya, each score can affect the value of the mean. So kung ganyan yung distribution ng score, makaka-apekto din yan sa value ng mean. Okay, it may not be an actual score in the distribution. Ang ibig sabihin, hindi talaga yung score. No? Right after computing, no, kanina, kung babalikan natin yung example na ito, ang value dyan ng mean is 33.63. Meron ka bang mahanap na 33.63 sa score?
Wala po, sir.
Diba ang value is 33.63? Wala tayong mahanap sa scores, no? Sa
Yes,
sa
sir.
sa X natin sa first column, wala tayong mahanap na 33 point score. Okay? Because according to the property, it may not be an actual score in the distribution. Okay? And then it can be applied to interval level of measurement. Please take note of that. Your mean can be used in the interval level of measurement. And it is very easy to compute. Easy to compute down. Okay. And then, of course, kailan natin gagamitin yung mean? Okay, of course, if you wanted to have stable sampling desired, and then if you desire to have the sampling stability, and then other, of course, you have to compute mean because we need to compute standard deviation, coefficient of variation, and of course, skewness. Requirements siya, no? Para magamit natin itong tatlong terms na ito. Okay. So those are the things for the mean. Okay. So ang gagawin natin dito, children, I will be giving you activity, no? I will be posting it sa Google Classroom, and okay. And for the rest of the things na, because I will be ending the discussion here, for the rest of the things, please bear with me because I will now be recording the rest of the discussions. Sir, bakit niyo po i-record? By the way, any questions so far?
And so far, sir.
None so far naman, sir.
Okay, not so far. Okay. So I will now stop the